Hello and welcome to the Bothering Strangers podcast with Max Hearing. I'm Max Hearing, and today I have a guest that I never thought I would have on this podcast. He is, as I recently learned, a rabbi and a comedian, and his name is Menachem Silverstein. Menachem, how's it going?
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I found you on like Instagram.
Nice.
I found your real TikToks, and I was like, this guy, clearly Orthodox Jew. And then I'm like, me, a secular Jew, but very, very Jewish, though. Like, I need to have him on.
I appreciate that. By the way, funny thing that your name is Max. When I had my first job in LA at a market research company, they're like, Menachem is way too hard to pronounce, so you're going to go by Max. So for about 2.5 years, I had to go by Max. So I basically feel like you're my spirit animal.
They anglicized you. That's what they did.
It's real. There was a guy named Kvork, and they're like, that's fine. You can keep your name. Menachem, you're Max.
That's anti-Semitism right there.
That literally is.
For those wondering, that's what that is.
But the guy was Jewish, so it was kind of okay. I know those Jews.
I know the Jews. I know. What we were talking about this before, but like what a lot of Jews, as like I think it's honestly like a survival mechanism. We make a lot of jokes about ourselves, like a lot of self-deprecating jokes about Jews.
Yeah, I think that like Jews are an anomaly.
Yeah.
And I think we're aware of that the most. So to justify our existence, we like put ourselves down and joke about it. That's where we feel most comfortable. We're like, someone's going to persecute us. It might as well be us. Let's persecute ourselves.
Let's get out of the curve. Come on. I think I'm kind of afraid to say this, but one of the things I'll always do is like if like I was in Israel recently, or if I'm in like, so that obviously Israel is very Jewish, but if I'm in a place even in America that's very Jewish, and I'm with my friends who are also Jewish, like, ugh, too many Jews here.
That's what I feel like by family events. I'm like, ugh, too many Jews.
We could use a few Gentiles.
I know. Just don't tell the rabbis that. They don't want to in.
No. This is such a relatable event for me, honestly. I think somebody in my family once said, oh, I should have married a Gentile.
I feel like every Jew like thinks that. That's like, every Jew secretly wants like a zesty shiksa goddess. Like that's the dream.
Every male like, does.
We'll marry a Jew.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them aren't. So I think for me, I definitely I know I'm gonna like end up with a Jewish girl. But like part of the reason why is like we can like have like a lot of like those like similar cultural experiences. Because you're religious. I'm not religious. Like I don't have like the whole like, oh, like, praying 3 times a day. I don't go through those like steps, those motions. So for me, it's more like, oh, so we can like just experience things and experience like Jewish values and also kind of like talk a little trash on non-Jews.
Yeah, I think it would be way better to be able to like to relate to your wife about the Jews getting persecuted than being like, oh, the Jews got persecuted, and your wife is like, oh yeah, my great grandfather was a Nazi and tried to kill your people. Like,
yeah,
that would be more awkward. Yeah, not great dinner conversation.
No, it would be considered less than ideal.
Because think about it, if you wanted to marry somebody if you married somebody who's not Jewish, you'd have to like, she can't be Polish, she can't be Russian, she can't be German. She can't be Spanish. She can't be Egyptian.
She can't.
Like so many people.
She can't essentially be white, really.
That's what I'm saying. Like, odds are her grandfather tried to persecute your people, unless she's like Caribbean, because I feel like, or Jamaican. Maybe the Jews in Jamaica. I don't think we had any riff.
I think if you go Asian, Black, you're good.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's
why so many Jews marry Asians.
Yeah, that's why. That's why
they never tried to kill us yet. I don't know. We'll have to fact check.
Yeah, we'll go back to that. A lot of my non-Jewish friends are like, why do I see all these Jewish men with Asian women? I'm like, don't ask me. We definitely saw Chinese food on Christmas. We're like, all right, let's extend this. Let's
they have good food, right? You need Chinese food for Christmas anyways. Might as well marry someone.
Do you actually like Chinese food?
So I like Chinese food, but I've only ever had kosher Chinese food, so I don't know like how comparable it is to non-kosher.
Well, I've also pretty much only had kosher Chinese food. I think the American version of Chinese food is pretty overrated.
It depends. Like I think there's a time for it. I think that like occasionally, like again on Christmas, it just tastes right. I don't know. Like maybe I've been trained this way, but it just tastes right.
My family's actually never done the Chinese food on Christmas.
Really? So you guys aren't Jewish?
No, we're not Jewish.
Okay, just
We're fakes. We're fakes.
Oh, awesome. Now we can be friends.
Yeah. Oh, so see, it's better though, isn't it? We were talking this before. What a lot of people don't realize in like Western Judaism, specifically, it's like Judaism in America and Canada and England and outside of Israel, is that we have like essentially mainly white Jews and then we have brown Jews. And a lot of the ideas about how like in America, like there's a stereotype of like white people don't know how to cook well. We have the exact same thing.
Somehow the Ashkenazi Jews took like the worst part of Russian cooking and said, this is now Jewish.
And all of it. We took the worst part of Eastern European cooking with no spices and just the worst parts. And we said, this is us.
The problem is they had to escape Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
So they only had so much that they could take. So they're like, we either take the potatoes or the spices. Potatoes it is, you know, like
my God.
They couldn't take it.
Yeah. I was in Israel about a month ago, like we're talking about, for the birthright trip, which is like, for those who know, it's like that Jewish, it's like the free trip for young Jewish.
It's a Jewish test. They offer you a free trip to Israel, and if you take it, they're like, you are Jewish.
You are Jewish. Did you do it?
Yeah, I did it when I was engaged right before I got married.
Wow. Okay. A lot of religious Jews don't do birthright, so
I did an all men's birthright though.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good on that.
I assume yours was not all men.
It honestly wasn't intentionally, but it almost was all men's just because the ratio was like that, but that wasn't on purpose.
So it's basically The Bachelorette in Israel.
There was a lot of there were like I think 5 women. One of them was with her boyfriend, so four eligible women. And yes, it was The Bachelorette.
So are you engaged? Did you get the ropes? Damn it.
No, I really wanted to. I think I need to move to Israel just to find my wife, honestly. She can come back to America.
Israeli girls are intense. Whew.
They're on one.
Yeah, amazingly so, but intense.
Yeah, listen, they know what they want. They know what they want. And they like a lot of
It's a green card.
It's a green card. What they want is a green card, yeah. Don't tell. Shh. Jewish secret. But I don't even know what we're talking about. With
Birthright, Israel.
Yes. So I'm on Birthright, and we went to this woman's house, like deep in the desert, where like nobody lives, like the parts of Israel that like tourists don't go. And she's a Moroccan woman. So my bet is, she's gonna cook like good Moroccan food. I thought an Ashkenazi woman cooked it. I thought like it had no spices.
You went to the one Moroccan woman who couldn't cook?
Yeah.
Moroccan food is the best.
It apparently it's really good. So sorry, for those that don't know, for the non-Jews, Ashkenazi means like Jewish for like Eastern European.
White Jews.
White Jews, essentially. And then the rest are mainly brown Jews. That's a fair bet. That's a fair way of putting it down.
Exactly. So it's like some Jews went to like Spain and Morocco and those kind of places. And then some Jews went to like Eastern Europe. So the Eastern Europe are like the Ashkenazi Jews and they can't cook. And then you have the Moroccan Jews and like Spanish Jews who like make amazing food.
And then you have the Yemenite Jews as well. And those Jews, like the Syrian ones, and they're also very good at cooking.
Yeah. And then I'm saying Persian Jews. If you like Persian food, like Persian Jews make great food too.
Persian Jews make a lot of good food, actually.
Israeli Jews make good food. It's just the Ashkenazis that are like, we don't need to do that.
It's just us that make just horrible food.
Yeah.
So we were just like shocked because I'm sitting here and everyone's like, oh, it's so good to me. And I look at my friend and I'm like, is it though? Like,
well, she's in the desert. Where's she gonna get spices from in the desert? She only has sand.
Yeah, she only sand. What's she gonna do? God. Wow, I'm happy that we can trash our own type of Jew here.
Exactly. So we definitely covered the anti-Semitic portion of our podcast.
Yeah, I don't
feel like everyone does.
I don't know if we need to be any more anti-Semitic.
Exactly.
Throughout the rest of this episode, honestly.
I feel like the Jewish Federation is going to listen to this and just like cancel us.
I'm afraid I'm going to be canceled every day of my life.
Nice. As you should. Live in fear. That's definitely a Jewish thing to do.
It is. You're right. So I want to talk about how you're like a professional stand-up comedian. You also do writing, but obviously your big thing is stand-up comedy. And you go out onto the stage, and if you're not watching this video, Menachem has a yarmulke on, and he has a beard that could use a little bit of grooming.
I know I should have brushed it a little more. It's hard when you have it, so I don't cut my beards. When you don't cut it, it naturally has a little frizz to it.
No,
so
you're
even if
right.
you like brush it and stuff, it just still has like a little bit of like the fuzz.
Oh, I no, I know. So you're notably Jewish, right?
Yes.
You walk to the street, people are gonna know you're Jewish, and you live in LA, so people know Jews.
Yeah.
So what kind of reactions do you get when you? I mean, obviously your name is Menachem Silverstein, so in case I'm wondering, obviously it's a Jew, but
Legal name is Menachem Nachum. I have two Nachems.
How did that happen?
I know. My parents were like, if the Nazis ever come back, we want to make sure you have a seat on the train.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would, you know what I mean? Like they're like, we want people to know.
They're like, no matter what happens, he's good. Like, I'm good. My name's Max Hearing. Max is a very common name in Germany.
Yeah. And he's pretty Jewish.
It used to be, not anymore though.
Okay, interesting.
Max is a very common name in Germany, and Hearing is straight Dutch. I'm good.
Yeah. Unless an Orthodox Jew sees you and they're like, herring, schmaltz, or pickled.
Oh no! If a Jew sees me, I'm screwed because they're for sure gonna point me out and be like, because they're gonna see me like that's a Jew. I'm like, you're right. You're right.
Like, don't take this the wrong way. You have resting kite face.
Resting what face?
Resting kite face.
Oh geez.
It's a condition.
I
Sorry,
do.
like, that's
I do.
you.
I do.
You do.
I
It's not a problem. You know, like whatever. It happens. I do too. Look at me.
It's not a bad thing. It's just a Jew that looks noticeably Jewish.
Yeah.
Like your wife, on the other hand, like we were talking about, does not look Jewish.
No, she has blue eyes. We don't come in that flavor. Like,
no,
I don't know what happened.
That
Something went wrong.
Somebody converted in your wife's like line.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Maybe she married me for a green card. Maybe she's not Jewish. I don't know.
Well,
a pretty girl was like, I'm Jewish. And I'm like, that's all the credentials I need.
You're like,
all the credentials
I don't even care. I don't even care.
So I just totally derailed the conversation.
I don't even mind.
And people reacting.
I don't mind though, because I love this casual anti-Semitism we're throwing out to each other.
Nice. Just a little banter.
A little banter. Yeah, this is true. So when people see you go on stage, what's like a reaction they get? Because like obviously they know you're gonna be Jewish just by your name, but then they see like a Jew and they see like an Orthodox Jew.
A lot of people, like, their first reaction is like looking backwards, like, did we just by mistake walk into synagogue at the Laugh Factory? Like, did we walk into the wrong room? Like, what's happening? Especially if I open the show. So like sometimes if I'll get up and I'll host.
You're the first person they see. You're the first person they see.
So they're like, what's, happening? And then, I kind of like lean right into that and just, make the Jewish joke, talk about being Jewish, talk about the fact my name is Menachem Nachum, and kind of like, the second they see that I'm being playful with the Orthodox Judaism, then it's just funny for them. But yeah, the first reaction is kind of like, what's happening? Like, you don't usually expect it, which I like. It kind of like, I am automatically memorable to an extent. Like a lot of comedians, you have to be memorable by being famous. So They saw you on a TV show or something before. You have to be the funniest person in the room that they remember and quote your jokes, or you have to stand out. So lucky for me, I have all three because I'm a mate. No. So for me, it's like, obviously I'm the funniest person in the room and the best comedian to ever live. But no, it's also like the second they see me, they see an Orthodox Jew, it's already ingrained in their mind. They're already like, whoa, who's this guy?
Even if you bomb, they know who you are.
Exactly. Which is also a problem because then they will never forget that I bombed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely don't do that. But yeah, so it's kind of interesting. So I get that initial shock, and as long as I can get the audience to trust me, they remember me, which is kind of nice. That's
definitely something that people have talked about in my life, because like I don't wear a yarmulke. I don't have anything that I wear that makes me visibly Jewish, but Jews know I'm Jewish.
Yeah, especially when you wear tight pants and they can see who circumcised.
Yeah, the circumcised penis thing.
Rabbi Schwartz. Oh, see, it's a lefty.
Oh, who did your circumcision actually? My parents always brag about the rabbi who did my circumcision. They're like, we flew him in from Vegas. It was a very big deal.
From Vegas?
Yeah, he was
you got like an Elvis.
This guy. So the rabbi who did my circumcision apparently was like a big. He was like a big shot on the West Coast for circumcision.
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't know why you need to tell me that. I mean, like, okay, thank you. Like you could have just hired anybody. Like I don't mind.
I think if a rabbi has a knife by your penis, I think you want the best. But to me, it's just funny to hear that according to your parents, the best is in Vegas, because I think like you'd want to go to like Brooklyn, where like Jews are made to get the rabbi,
Yeah.
not like Vegas, which is known for like quick weddings. Like, is this guy on the strip just doing like, quick circumcisions?
Yeah, I was
just drunk people. I want to be Jewish. Done.
I was hoping they would have gone to Fairfax.
At least, yeah.
At least Fairfax is not that religious, but it's pretty Jewish, If not, you can go to the Valley, you can go to like Thousand Oaks, and then you can do that instead.
But this guy is good because if your Jewish parents are willing to spend extra money to fly someone in when they're in LA, where that people like there's going to be a good rabbi in LA, and they flew someone in.
They went from Vegas to Orange County for this.
Wow,
I'm a big deal. Cool. I'm a big shot.
Pretty impressive. Nice. Can we ask what it looks like? Did he do a good job? Are we impressed?
Yeah,
we'll just throw a picture up.
Yeah, I'll
later
in the
podcast. Just throw.
Yeah, and we'll put your sex tip on afterwards.
Perfect. Yeah, as one should. It was actually funny. Like one of my first jokes that I wrote. I'm gonna kind of butcher it in this context, but it was the dating apps. Jewish dating apps are the only apps where dick pics are encouraged. Otherwise, how does the girl know? Like you sign up to JSwipe, if you're a guy, the first thing they ask is upload a picture. Well, and then once you do, they're like, okay, you're good. You can,
what's kind of wild is that like in America, like circumcision is kind of just regular for anybody. Like the vast majority of American men are circumcised. But in like the UK though, if you're circumcised, you're a Jew.
Funny. I was speaking to somebody about this last week. I feel like that's a grand conspiracy kind of thing that could make like an amazing limited series, because it used to be like in Germany. Like I was reading, my wife got this book, some famous like designer from Germany. She was Jewish, and she's saying how like what they used to do is when Jews tried to escape on the trains, they would randomly make people pull down their pants, and if you were circumcised, they would send you to a camp.
Wow.
Because no one was circumcised. All of a sudden, we come to America, and it's like healthy to circumcise your kid. Yeah. Now everyone's circumcised. Everybody. You can't tell Jews. I kind of like, again, this is super conspiracy theory. I feel like some Jewish doctor was like, we want the Jews to be able to blend in. God forbid something happens. And they push the narrative that it's healthier when it's like, is it healthier to cut off part of your penis? Maybe, maybe not. But this narrative was like pushed that, now if you like, I'm circumcised and so is like Jose and so is Christian and so is, Vladimir Putin, probably. I don't know. Maybe
probably.
I don't know. I've never seen.
Not yet. I think what do you know what they always say when they talk about why it's healthier to have a circumcision? Do you know what the line is always?
For like cleanliness. Like it doesn't get infected.
It's bacteria. So if you're a doctor, you say bacteria, everyone's like, oh, bacteria, of course.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I love how we like are doing like a deep cut, like a deep, no pun intended, deep dive into circumcision. Like we mentioned circumcision, and now we're having conspiracy theories, and now it's like all in.
This is the most Jewish thing.
We're gonna start bringing up Abraham and like the start of Judaism.
This is the most Jewish thing we could have done.
Yeah. Now we have to out-Jew that. Gefilte fish. Go.
Gefilte fish.
Ugh.
We'll talk. We'll circle. We'll circle back. We're gonna circle back to the foods, but what I wanted to say real quick was that Jews know I'm Jewish. White people and like non-Jews, they can sometimes tell. They might also get like an Italian vibe. It's hard. It depends on the day. It depends like how far my hands are moving out. So, I was talking to somebody about this, and it's like, listen, there are a lot of white male comedians. Like there are too many. There aren't a ton of Jewish comedians. So there are a good chunk, but there aren't like that many compared to like the amount of white comedians there are. There aren't that many. So it's definitely like an advantage to be like, I'm Jewish and I can talk about being Jewish.
Yeah, but I feel like, so kind of going to like the writing for a second. So I do comedy and I also write. To comedians, even though like, again, I kind of like am quote unquote white passing, like I look white, but because I have my kippah and tzitzis and my beard, I come off as super Orthodox Jew. So I do kind of like stand out in the crowd. And therefore it's like, oh, we don't just have white people on the show, we have a Jew. But when it comes to like script writing, Jews are considered white. Like we are kind of 100% considered white, even as an Orthodox Jew. Like I don't really stand out in the crowd when I like submit a script or pitch a script, etc.
You're right.
I think that like part of the problem, let's say like in comedy, is that even though like, yes, you are Jewish, if you don't look Jewish, the majority of people still will kind of like lump you into like, it's a white comedian, like maybe he has a little sugar on top, he's Jewish, but it's like a white comedian.
Yeah. The only opinion that really matters is the white opinion. So if white people think you're Jewish, then you're Jewish. If white people think you're white, then you're white.
True.
Wow.
True.
That's a deep
wisdom
cut right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Wasn't ready for that.
Racism.
Came for a podcast, stayed for a TED Talk.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I think the writing side, there are a lot more Jewish writers than Jewish comedians, I'd say.
There are a lot of Jewish comedians, but there are not nearly as many Jewish comedians who like really lean into being Jewish, for sure not. As opposed to writers, like shows that have Jewish writers, they'll have Jewish jokes, they'll have Jewish characters, they'll have Jewish throwaway concepts.
You're
sorry, brief seltzer break.
Yeah, brief. In case you forgot, Menachem was Jewish. There's the seltzer to really right back in.
Boom.
What we were talking about like foods before this.
Yeah.
Now we're both not a big fan of the foods we grew up eating in our like traditions.
No, it's we kind of we mentioned that before. It's kind of interesting how like somehow the Sephardim got the good food and the Ashkenazis got stuck with like gefilte fish, even though we did latkes and everybody loves a good latke.
We did latkes?
Yeah, a latke's Ashkenazi. They didn't have potatoes in Spain or in Morocco. That's like Russia.
We were chock full of potatoes.
Chock full.
We had a ton of potatoes, but we didn't have access to spices though.
Like on more Spain, Morocco, they definitely had like more, spice and more flavor versus like in Russia, it's so cold. It's like, you're lucky to have food.
Yeah, just get some soup. Just go.
Exactly. That's it,
But
some children do not have food. Here's food. Go.
But your dad is he's a little bit Moroccan, right?
Yeah, has a little Sephardi in him.
Has a little spice to him,
Exactly. Little hot sauce on a bagel.
Little bit. How do you think that affects the way you eat? Being like a little bit brown.
So I'll tell you, it was kind of cool. So my dad has like a little Sephardi in him. My mother also grew up not religious at all in California. So she's used to like Mexican food. Like her favorite kind of food was Mexican food. So kind of the mix of that, I actually grew up like all my Ashkenazi friends in Brooklyn, they would have like chicken and potatoes every night for dinner.
Every night. It's a
every
staple.
night, just chicken and potatoes. Meanwhile, we would have like tacos and different burritos, different kind of like stuff. And like my friends, like half my friends had their first taco at my house, which was kind of fun. So even on my like Ashkenazi side, we still had like from the food perspective, we still had like food that was a little bit more fun. My mother liked gefilte fish, which was but none of us did. Is horrible. So she'd like make salmon. Gefilte fish is hard. For those who don't know what gefilte fish is, essentially it's meatloaf, but for fish. Yeah. Instead of taking like delicious meats and grinding them up and making it into a loaf, you do that for fish. So the cheapest fish. Ugh.
And you just grind them up and you're like, here it is. This is enjoy. And
some of them have like a little jelly on them.
Or the carrot.
Like, why do you want or the carrot? Like, why do people do that?
Yeah. Just Google picture. Google picture and you will get a very good concept of this.
Yeah. Like I think gefilte fish is anti-Semitic. Like I kind of feel like
yes.
Somehow like the Nazis didn't win the war, but they convinced us that gefilte fish was Jewish.
Yes.
So like even though they lost the war, they kind of won because now we still have gefilte fish. Like that's again conspiracy, but it just feels.
I don't think I've ever agreed more with the statement in my life.
Awesome. By the way, kind of like I know that you're asking me questions. How did you get started in comedy? So you're a nice Jewish boy. You're from Orange County. We flew in a mile from a circumciser from Vegas for you. You get circumcised, and then what happens?
Well, I grew up in like what I would describe as like a conservative Jewish home, not politically, I say, but no Jews home is conservative politically, but conservative Jewish. Went to an Orthodox synagogue, but in terms of like the traditions we practice, conservative.
Okay.
And the joke that I say is that 3 people told me I should do stand-up comedy, and my ego's like, that's enough. Run it. Run it.
3 different people, or your mother three times?
Three different people. No, my mom doesn't
Yeah.
want me to do it. My parents don't want it. My parents are not here for it.
So they want you to be doctor, lawyer.
My brother did the doctor.
Oh, wow. Nice. So they have a doctor.
So my brother did the doctor.
Nice. Because I feel like Jews, if a Jewish mother gets a doctor, lawyer, and an accountant, they get automatic heaven or something.
They get something.
Some incentive for them to do that,
bragging rights. They get bragging rights.
Sure. Yeah, that's true.
So
they have the doctor. Check 1.
Done.
Awesome.
But there are only 2 of us, so
you have to be an accountant and a lawyer.
I have to do both. So I don't know. I never really liked school that much. Like I have a degree. I went to college. I filled out all the Jewish boxes, you know. But I never really liked school that much, so I just wasn't here for it. And then I did stand up once in high school. It sucked, bombed, understandably, first time. And after that, I kind of stopped. And then in college, I kind of just got back into it, and then added like acting to it. Writing came on later. Now podcasting kind of became like a whole, you know, jack of all trades type of, well, working to be jack of all trades, at least I'll say.
Well, you're Jewish, so it's more of a shmuel of all trades.
Yeah, it's a shmuel of all trades, of course. If a person's not Jewish, they're not going to understand that joke, and I like that. So
they have to. We want to make people Google things, okay? We want people to put an effort. They shouldn't just be able to listen in the car. They have to put.
If somebody listens to this whole thing, you're gonna have to do a lot of Googling. If you're not Jewish, you're gonna do a lot of Google searching. So basically, like, the bio on my writing website with my writing partner is basically like it says something, I'm paraphrasing, it says something like his Jewish heritage forced him to work in the arts.
Nice.
So I would say
neither of your parents work in the arts. What do your parents do?
No, neither work in the arts. My mom is a trip planner, like for like summer tours for mostly ends up Jewish kids by chance.
Nice.
And
by chance.
And my dad is like a research manager, like for a pharmaceutical company. So neither of them went into traditionally Jewish fields either, actually.
Okay. So they can't be upset with you for not being a lawyer.
They can be upset with me as much as they want to be. They're allowed, but you know, there's no rationality behind it now. So
okay, that's good.
I basically do what I do, and it'll get better. It'll get better, but basically that's my story. But how did you? I mean, coming from your background, like, not only are there not very many Jewish comedians, but like it's kind of a frowned upon field, I would argue, for many Orthodox Jews, especially East Coast. Like you live on the West Coast. Yeah, you're an East Coast Orthodox Jew, though.
Yeah, right off the factory.
Right off the American Jewish factory. So, like we talked before, like it's a much more chill experience being a West Coast Jew, and I can say that as somebody who's born and raised in the culture. But you being born and raised in the East Coast culture, there's a lot more to be done. So how did you, especially you are an ordained rabbi, how did you become a comedian? What's your story?
Okay, so the origin story of Menachem. So I always loved the arts. So I always loved doing fun things.
Right.
Being a comedian was always something that I wanted to do, but I was like, I don't think people really want to see kind of an Orthodox Jew on stage. It's kind of weird. I didn't think
you couldn't be more wrong.
In hindsight, I couldn't be more wrong. But young Menachem was like, it's a dream, but I'm never going to do it. And I used to actually, I found notebooks recently, I would write my sets. So starting from the age of like 8, I would write my comedy sets. To be honest, they're trash. And if little Menachem is listening to this, you're trash. But I kind of like wrote my things, didn't really do that. Got into music. I started a band.
That's very Jewish too, just so people know. Like music is very, very big in the Jewish, especially in the Orthodox community. It's a very big deal. Yeah.
So, but at the time, what was kind of funny was Modest Yo was big, and I kind of had a band where I was the rapper, so you could imagine how white the band was. And we did kind of this pop rock where it was like a singing chorus and rapping verses. And in the Orthodox world, there was nothing like it. It was kind of like Gym Class Heroes E, and it popped off and it was doing like really well. Until my band kind of like inevitably fell apart. And then kind of like fast forward, I was working at a Jewish day camp, day camp.
Which one?
And in Morristown.
Morristown, New Jersey.
For Rabbi Solomon.
I don't know
It
it.
was like,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I shouldn't have asked.
a Gone Israel, like a super Jewy one.
I went to Gone
And
Israel. I went to Silver Gone
did
Israel
you?
in Orange County. I went.
Nice. Yeah, they're all over the world. So they have this,
Yeah.
so each like Chabad house will kind of have this camp. So they actually had a really big camp in New Jersey, hundreds of kids, and they needed somebody to do the newsletter, and nobody wanted to write it. So I looked at the rabbi and I was like, I am happy to write the newsletter, but I can do whatever I want. Like, I'll do it, but you let me do whatever I want. And he was like, sure. So then I started writing the newsletter, and I'd like do fake interviews, and I'd kind of have like origin stories of where we found the counselors, and I would kind of like have a lot of fun with it. And then basically 1 week I didn't write it, and like the parents and students were like, where's the newsletter this week? And I realized like, oh, people liked my writing, and it wasn't just silly. And then I was like, oh shit, like this could be a job. Like people can write for a living. So after that camp, like a year and a half later, me and my friend started writing scripts. And that kind of was going well. And long story short, that led me to like doing something on Jimmy Kimmel and selling some sketches to like TBS and IFC and a bunch of stuff like that. And then kind of the full, and at the time I was still doing like some open mics with comedy. Like, again, I always loved comedy, but I was kind of like, didn't think it's really what people want. And what's the funny part was I was pitching a script to Amazon that had to do with comedy and stand-up comedians. And basically the person I was pitching to kind of looked and was like, oh, would your character, like, would you be one of the comedians in the script? And I was like, yes. And then she was like, that's hilarious. I'd love to, like, an Orthodox Jewish comic. That sounds so funny and different and unique. And I was like, you know what? That does sound so funny and different and unique. And I, at the time, was potentially going to play my character in the show. Later, the show fell apart, but that kind of got me to really like take comedy more seriously and be like, oh, if she thinks that it could work and she's like a studio executive, then I can make it work. And then I really kind of like, started doing a lot of comedy. And I was lucky enough that Taran Vengasri, who's one of my best friends and one of the funniest comedians I know, he like took a chance on me and lets me open for him and stuff like that. And that really led to, me becoming a regular at the Laugh Factory and, getting all of these opportunities.
One day you'll be big enough to allow me to open for you as just two very Jewish
Let's do it.
guys just
It'll
performing.
be Jew and Jewer.
Yeah, it'll be Jew.
That's our
Well,
tour.
I think it's perfect, honestly. So being like an Orthodox Jew, like you can't perform on Friday night. You can sometimes perform on Saturday night, depending on like the time of year. I'm not going to get into that, but that's like a whole sundown thing for those that don't know. And then there's certain days like next week. Well, today the day is September 2nd. Next week is Rosh Hashanah, Jewish New Year. You can't perform on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday night.
We had a show. Somebody messaged me, hey, do you want to do the Hotel Cafe on the 8th? I have a show. I'd love to have you. You can have 15 minutes. And I was like, I can't. It's the Jewish New Year. Next time. And the problem is with that, and it's a little bit hard because part of, let's say, like what a booker wants with a comedian is somebody to be as easy as possible because they have to deal with stars, which I can't. So they have to basically deal with stars. And when they have like people who are on TV shows or with tons of specials and stuff, those people tend to be a little bit more difficult and a little flaky sometimes. So these bookers have to deal with kind of flaky people. So what they kind of want with their comedians who quote unquote aren't famous yet is super easygoing. I call you and you get, you take the show that I give you and you're just, like you show up when I need you to show up. So when a booker reaches out to me and is like, hey, can you do this? And I'm like, no. And they're like, how about this? And I'm like, no, but how about another one? I then kind of become a little bit more difficult, which makes it slightly harder for sure.
Has it? I mean, the thing is, in comedy, like Friday night is arguably one of the biggest nights of like,
yeah,
it's probably the biggest night of the week for stand-up.
So what you have to do is you just make your night as big. Like last Thursday night, I did a show with Taran at the Laugh Factory and we sold it out. So we made Thursday night our Friday night.
And he's Jewish too, so he understands it.
And he's Jewish too, so he gets it. Yeah, so I'm saying like, right, when Taran books me, he's, kind of like super understanding of the situation and things like that. But yeah, so what my thing was this, it's like, I love comedy, and comedy is always something that like I wanted to do. And I'm so lucky and honored to be able to have the opportunity to perform comedy and to make people laugh and share my wild ideas with people. But yeah, there is definitely going to be, kind of like that limitation. And also, I'm married with 2 kids. So being married with 2 kids, it's a little bit hard for me to tour. So between like not being able to do Friday nights and like the tour limitations, comedy again is like always a passionate thing that I love, but it is hard to like, figure out a way to take it to the next level, which is something that I'm working on. But yeah, that's where like a lot of the writing comes into play, because I get to like, writing does have more of a flexibility.
Yeah, writing. I mean, you can really do a month, a 9 to 5. Not 9 to 5, Step. You can do
Most,
like
most writers'
sorry,
rooms, you can't do that. But yeah.
sorry, 9 to 5. You can do like a Monday to Friday though.
Oh yeah, 100%. Exactly. You can do a Monday to Friday, more or less a 9 to 5. Kind of selling movie scripts, rewriting movie scripts, TV shows, etc. So yeah, so that's definitely more of like from the kind of career perspective. That's what I focus on. But comedy is something that I really love to do and I'm really passionate about. And I'm so lucky that places like the Laugh Factory give me the opportunity to go on their stage. Their stage is one of the biggest and best in the world, not the country, the world. And they're like, this Orthodox Jew can get up and do jokes, and I'm super thankful and honored.
Do you also think that maybe do you think it's an advantage on some level because the two comedy hubs of this country, LA and New York, happen to have a lot of Jews?
Yeah, I think it definitely does to an extent, but they're again like Orthodox or kind of any sort of religious or modern Orthodox comedians. It is a very small pool of people really getting up in the mainstream clubs. So like you have some comedians that will go and do private shows, but like when it comes to like doing major clubs, it's really like Alon Gold, Modi, me.
You guys are the three.
And I'm like the new guy.
Yeah,
like
and they're
like
not as religious as you
established.
also.
They're not as so yeah, so they're more like again, I don't want to misquote this. I think they're modern Orthodox.
I know Alon Gold is. I don't know about
Or,
Modi Rosenfeld.
yeah.
So okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean there have been a couple Orthodox comedians over the years, but they haven't really lasted.
Yeah, exactly. It again, because of the limitations, it's definitely harder to do that. Like I have a friend, Ellie Leibovitz. I don't know if you know him. He's hilarious, and he opens for Alon, and he's a super duper talented comedian. But he ends up doing a lot more Jewish shows than clubs, just because again, it's like it's harder to do the clubs. The limitations of the Friday night, the limitations of like like the Jew jokes. My Jew jokes land in LA and New York and Chicago, but if I did my Jew jokes in Montana, it wouldn't really work. I'd have to like rework the set.
Yes, right. And in your case, your sets happen to be very Jewish oriented.
Yeah. So what I do is I try to like, what I do is my Jew jokes, I try to make them very relatable. That it's like, even if you're not Jewish, you kind of get it. Like I joke about my name being Menachem Nahum. And then also like I kind of make some biblical jokes. Like I have jokes about, the fact that our religion started off with Abraham and Moses having a conversation about making a, like building this bond in this covenant. And Abraham's like, how about take the tip of my penis? And God was like, sure. Like that's a weird kind of a thing that everybody knows about. So I can kind of like make it Jewish, but also make it relatable and also make it fun.
So okay. It's good you brought that up because I do want to talk about this. You say jokes that in the comedy world are completely fine. Like they would be very much accepted. There's a little bit of political incorrectness to it, but they're fine. In the Jewish world, though, some of these jokes are they're not kosher to bring the puns into it. That they're not okay. Like to say certain words that you say on podcasts, like on this podcast too. I'm not against it, but certain other people might be. And you talk about things that are not really considered okay, and especially coming from the East Coast Orthodox community, like it's a very, very kind of tight-lipped community.
Yeah. So again, like I'm not trying to be a Jewish comedian. I'm trying to be a comedian who's Jewish. I'm love being Jewish and I'm super proud to be Jewish, but like I am not marketing myself as the like Jewish comic. So therefore, like my goal, my writing, I'm not really writing to like, oh, how can I entertain a Jewish crowd? It's how can I entertain a crowd? More kind of like Jackie Mason. Like Jackie Mason happened to be Jewish. He wasn't a Jewish comic.
Right.
And he was an ordained rabbi too, which is kind of funny.
I did not know he was an ordained rabbi.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
dude. May he rest in peace. Super duper talented comedian, really special guy. So with me, like I kind of like this, like I joke about what I want to joke about, and I'm happy to like talk about what I want to talk about. I kind of feel like, part of being an Orthodox Jew is like, I want to make it relatable. Like I want to show, like a lot of people who've never met an Orthodox Jew are like, ooh, Orthodox Jew, that's weird. That's, kind of strange and, kind of like weird alien being. And Orthodox Jews are kind of like, we're real people. We have the same thoughts and struggles and, like relationship problems as everyone else does. So I think part of like what I want to do and part of what I want to do with my comedy is make it relatable. So therefore I feel comfortable talking about topics and I feel comfortable, kind of like speaking about certain things more than other comics. But yeah, so that's kind of like my shtick and my spiel. But it's funny when I get the Jewish shows, occasionally they'll have, certain restrictions, which I obviously am more than ready to, abide by. Like I have a joke, an old closer of mine, I have it on my Instagram about like me waxing my chest for the first time.
Jews.
Like I got a coupon and I decided I wanted to do it. And I literally had like this Jewish organization hire me, and they're like, okay, but you have to be clean. And I'm like, I am clean. And they're like, no, talking about waxing. And I was like, that's dirty. So, and then I had a joke like about my son getting circumcised. And then instead of like, saying the word penis, I just like made a reference to it. Like, and they circumcised and ended the show on that. So like there are, different ways that I could take it out. Cause again, like not everybody, like not all Chabad houses, let's say, would want me to say the word penis, but like to me also, like our entire religion is based on circumcision. Like that's like the covenant between us and God.
Yes.
Like we should be able to speak about that. We should be able to say the word penis in the context of circumcision. I feel like that's fine.
Absolutely.
If somebody doesn't want me to do it and they hire me, I will not do it. But I feel like most rabbis should be comfortable with that because, like, again, if you're saying a Dvar Torah, if you're giving a speech about the Torah, odds are circumcision will come up.
I think Pete Holmes said this when Larry King interviewed him, and he said that basically like a lot of what's happened in a lot of religious circles, especially coming from, for Pete Holmes' case, the Christian circles, we've gotten caught up in like cursing in terms as like it's not acceptable, when what really shouldn't be acceptable is certain topics.
Yeah.
But like just saying the word penis like is suddenly not okay. Well, I think it's never been okay, but
But I think it's also funny, like, again, if we're talking about circumcision, which is a topic you should be able to talk about, and I feel like saying penis is the kind of like tame version. Like you could use words that are way worse than that.
It's the medically correct version.
It's the medically correct.
It's literally the term for it.
It is. Like I feel like if you're talking about a circumcision via a Jewish comedy event, foreskin and penis should be the things you're allowed to say.
They're good.
Yeah.
Have you gotten backlash from like
schlong?
Okay, so
schlong. See, schlong is worse. If I say schlong, it's like whoa. You know what I mean?
I'm getting like it's fine fine with me.
You look offended. I see it.
I wasn't offended. I was surprised.
Nice.
It's fine with me, but I would say don't take it to a Jewish event though.
Right. Like I'm not gonna say schlong, putz, or dick.
No,
but I would say penis.
Right.
That's what I like. We'll find out. We'll see. I have an event in Irvine in October.
Hopefully I'll be there.
The rabbi. Let's see. Hopefully he'll let me say penis.
Rabbi
Tenenbaum. You'll hear all the penis stuff.
Rabbi Tenenbaum?
Yeah.
I play basketball with his son.
Nice. Yeah. So, I love him. Everyone in Irvine is sweet. Like I really like that synagogue. It's really cool.
We're good people. We're good Jews over there in Irvine.
Yeah, you're okay. We're Jews.
Listen. We could be a lot better.
Yeah, you could be a lot worse though.
We could be a lot worse too. We're really all right.
Yeah, and definitely
I'm
base level Jew.
And I'm perfectly fine with all right. Have you gotten?
That's what your Miles said. Sorry, continue. I apologize.
We're gonna those jokes now. have you gotten, I mean, since you like from your family, from your community back in Brooklyn, like have you gotten backlash about, your material per se or certain words you say?
So I'll tell you what's funny. This happened kind of like in my music career and my comedy career, that people always warned me of the backlash that was coming, and barely any backlash came, thank God, which was kind of really nice. I feel like when I decided I wanted to like go into comedy and writing, everyone in my community was like, sure, the Jew is gonna make it in Hollywood. Go get him, Tiger. And then I was able to be on Jimmy Kimmel, and I did a bunch of sketches with the incredibly talented King Batch, Andrew Batchelor, who's huge on social media. He has like over 25 million followers. And a big actor.
You wait, you I
So
remember some old ones with
he's a friend of mine, and we've
know
done sketches.
King Batch.
King Batch. He's the guy, and he just his movie he was in, it's called Holiday Friends or Weekend Friends, something. It's a new Hulu movie. Just broke all the records for the most viewed. He's getting a sequel, whatever.
He's very, very popular.
Very popular, nicest guy in the world, biggest mensch, love the guy. So like once I did some sketches with him, and then I was on Jimmy Kimmel, all of a sudden people were like, okay, Menachem is, a real,
he's legit
person. He's legit. Then I became a regular at the Laugh Factory, and I got a huge, page article in the Jewish Journal, and everyone's like, okay, like now Menachem is legit. So I feel like, yeah, there was definitely, I didn't get the hate that much, but I did get the like, sure, you're going to go make it. The only hate that I got, which was a little bit of hate, and it was kind of strange, where there were a couple people that were like, you're going to go to the Laugh Factory and wear your kippah and tzitzit. Like, that's embarrassing. You shouldn't do that. Like, don't bring our Judaism into a comedy club. And I kind of looked at them and I was like,
fear though.
Yeah. But I was also like, so you'd rather me take my kippah and tzitzit off? Like, I'm going to the Laugh Factory. You would rather me take it off? Like, that doesn't make sense. Because I'll tell you the truth, like a lot of times what happens is when I get up with my kippah and tzitzit, like first off, I think it's like nice for non-Jews to see that like, oh, a guy with like a kippah and tzitzit is like getting up on stage. But it's also kind of nice for Jews. Like after the show, I have a lot of like Jewish friends who come over, like, Jewish strangers who will be like, oh, that's amazing that you did that. Thanks for representing. I have like comedian friends who come for Shabbos.
Right.
So that was the only kind of weird backlash I got. Besides for that, it's been great.
I would love to come for Shabbos to eat your Ashkenazi food. Honestly,
come for Shabbos. Eat my 1/16 Sephardi fish.
Yes. Have you? I mean, yeah. To me, it's fear. If you're saying, oh, take off what makes you look Jewish, right?
Right.
That's like, oh, we need to fit in. We can't have this behavior.
It was kind of a very weird thing because even though it obviously like at its root is fear-based, they were like, kind of from an embarrassment perspective.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Your rabbis should not be in clubs, but it's not a club. It's a comedy club. You know what I mean? Like, it's different.
Please.
But some people don't know. Like, the people who are saying that have never been to a comedy club. They don't know what it is.
Right. Absolutely.
And and some people's sets do get dirty. So I'm not saying that like all rabbis should go to comedy clubs. Like, obviously go at your own risk. But if I'm as a comedian, like, I'm never going to take my yarmulke and stuff like that. Is who I am,
shouldn't.
And that's what I'm proud of. And
I will say this, since I know we have to end soon. Whenever I find that Jews have a modicum of success in a field that they're not typically having success in, being like athletics, stand-up comedy is a good example, like it's celebrity things, the Jewish outlets run with it.
Yeah.
Like just to give you an example, in this last MLB draft for baseball, there were 2 Orthodox kids that were drafted.
Isn't that crazy?
The Jewish world ran with it. I ran with it. I was part of it. I mean, they give you little problems when you're not successful, but when you are successful, they're there.
When you're successful, everyone remembers who you are.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, Menachem! Hey!
Like, oh my goodness, I'm so happy I supported you the whole time in this venture.
Oh yeah, I'm saying that for sure happens. Like anytime you see something that's like all of a sudden people who didn't really pay attention to you are all of a sudden like, I'm not gonna say who this was, but there was this guy that I was basically connected with to potentially, he had like a production company and I was going to do some writing, like for commercial writing for him.
Yeah.
And I was connected by a friend and they pitched me, and this guy kind of like barely took notice. Then he came across my Instagram. And all of a sudden he's DMing me, hey, let's do lives together. Let's be friends. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bro, like when you didn't know who I was, and I was just like a writer being introduced to you, like you didn't even give me a chance. No. Now that you see that I have like followers, you want to like leech off of them. And like, despite that, I gave him the opportunity and I did like a live with him, and it kind of totally blew up in my face. And I don't think I'm going to be like working with him again, but it was just like, yeah, you do have to like know who is there from the start and who is there just to kind of like, leech.
Yeah, a lot of people in this industry, a lot of people are here to leech, but a lot of people are really there, I would say as well, like to really support you in, your in all your ventures. I want to ask one last question before we go. It's something I've asked once on this podcast before, actually, in this case to another Jew. And then the question is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received? And what is the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
That's a very good question.
Thank you.
The best piece of advice that I received was from my dad. This could be advice on anything, right? It doesn't have to be specifically
anything you ever hear.
Okay, the best advice that I got was from my dad, and it was about dating. And he basically said, when you meet a girl that you want to date, take her on a walk. Don't take her to a fancy restaurant. Because if she's breathing and alive, she can eat. Take her on a walk and make sure she's healthy. And I kind of love that. And, you don't have to actually take it at face value with like, actually walking versus eating, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like, make sure the person is healthy in any way. So that's the best piece of advice. And the worst piece of advice is something I actually got on Birthright. So when I went on Birthright, I was engaged, and there was this Sephardi guy who was very kind of like strange. And he said a bunch of weird things. And we always thought he was joking. One of the things he told me when he found out I was engaged was, he's like, keep your wife in the basement with bread and water. Don't let her go to college, because if she realizes she can make money without you, she'll leave you. And I'm like,
wow,
that's horrible.
That's horrible thing to say.
And I'll tell you what's kind of sadder but funnier. The guy's in jail right now for domestic abuse.
Well,
like he said all these things that we thought we're like, either he's out of his mind or he's hilarious. We don't know. And turns out he was out of his mind. But yeah, so that was the worst advice. So don't keep your wife in the basement with bread and water. Let her go to college, because think about it. If she makes money, you make money.
And you don't have to work.
And you don't have to work. And then you can just be a struggling comedian forever.
Yes.
Marry someone who's in college.
That's what I've been saying. I need to marry myself a doctor so I can just focus on myself.
Or a lawyer, so then your parents will be proud of someone.
Yeah, I could use that too, honestly. There is interestingly enough in certain Orthodox communities, not on the West Coast, mainly on parts of the East Coast, probably not where you grew up, there is the concept that women shouldn't go, past high school.
Right. There was the concept that like the woman should be at home raising the kids, which, in itself kind of has bad stigma. Like, I think that people need to know that any woman who chooses to be a, stay-at-home mom, that is a full-time job.
Yes.
Like, you should not take that away from her. Like, it is significantly harder to keep a house and raise kids than it is to, show up to your 9 to 5 and get a paycheck.
Right.
So any woman who chooses that is a career, and that's a job, and that's super commendable, and that's amazing. But yeah, I think, like, again, Orthodox Jews who have like big families, it's just, again, if you have 7-10 kids, sometimes the mother needs to be the stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
But I think that at least like nowadays it's changing more, where at least in like Chabad, I know that women are, able to do whatever they want. But if they, want to become a doctor or a lawyer or, whatever, they can go to college, which I think is nicer.
Chabad is the progressive end of Orthodox Judaism too.
Yeah. Like if I was, I don't know, like if I was Satmar or something, they'd be like, comedian? Done.
No. Yeah. Coming. There are a lot of Orthodox communities where if you came from them, you would not be able to do anything that you're doing right now.
Right. No, I think that, yeah, it's nice to kind of be able to be Chabad, because it gives a little bit more leeway to be creative. Like, one of my close friends, I don't know if you know him, Zusha Golden. He's like a amazing celebrity photographer. He's actually photographs for the D'Amelios. Like a lot of their press releases are his photos. And like, again, yeah, like he's a Chabad kid, and he kind of started doing the wedding photography and stuff and wanted to be a celebrity photographer. And he now moved out here, and he is the only person that takes my headshots. So how good he is.
Yeah, he must be great.
So he's amazing. But again, I think, having the little bit of leeway, like, kind of being Chabad, and Chabad pushing you to like go out into the world and start a Chabad house, go out into the world and, have put tefillin on people, gives you the opportunity, like, oh, hey, how far can I push this boundary?
Right.
Do I just have to be a rabbi, or could I be a stand-up comedian?
Yeah, Chabad's pretty good about allowing you to do most of what you want to, I'd say. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
This was really amazing. And I hope you come for Shabbos. I'm going to take you up on that.
When I move closer to LA, I'm trying to get to LA County at some point.
Awesome.
Then I
slowly, just a mile at a time.
Yeah, one give me like 30 stops. Exactly. Then I'll for sure be out of the Studio City, not that far. For me, not that far. So
sounds perfect. Thank you so much for having me. Always great schmoozing.
Always great. Where can we find you?
You could find me across most platforms. Well, actually, the truth is I have to do this better. On Instagram, it's Menachem Silverstein. Okay. On TikTok, it's Menachem S. And on Twitter, it's Menachem Silver. So on TikTok, I was early enough to get Menachem S, which is what I would love. Well, I would love Menachem, but Menachem S is second.
Yeah.
Instagram, I was late, so I did the full Menachem Silverstein. Twitter doesn't let you do Menachem Silverstein. It's too many letters.
Yes.
So Menachem Silver is all I was able to do. So I have to fix it. But if you type in Menachem, I should come up as the first thing that comes up.
Type in Menachem, you'll find them. That's all. But that's all.
Here's the deal: if you know how to spell Menachem, you will find me.
You'll see
it's
it.
I'll
type it in the bio. I'll type it in. It's going to be in the title anyway, so I'll type it. And it's actually a fairly common name in the Orthodox kind of circles as well.
Yeah, it's funny. I grew up in my class. I had like 9 Menachems. Then I moved to LA, and I'm like the only Menachem that people have heard of.
In the Orthodox community, people have so many kids, but they have so few names.
Yeah. You just have to reuse them. It's like Menachem, Menachem 2, Schneer Zalman, Menachem 3, Schneer Zalman 2. That's it. Full family.
A grandma's going to have probably 10 grandkids with the same name.
At least.
Because of
that's a small family.
Yeah, pretty much. So thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You can find his stuff on social media. DM him. He does respond to DMs. That's how I schedule this. So if you want to find his shows, you can do that too. He posts it all there. And that's all. Thanks for watching.
Awesome.